We've talked extensively about the lingering unemployment rate in this country, but what about the employed? Have they fallen into the busy trap? I'm Alan Barton. Stand by for Front Page. Joining me in studio, Scott Shackford, Associate Editor for 24/7 News at Reason.com, and Terry Jones, Associate Editor for Investors Business Daily. In a recent New York Times opinion piece, Tim Kreider writes that Americans are too busy. They are unnecessarily working to levels of exhaustion. Somewhat anecdotal here, Terry, the idea of calling his friends and they're too busy, they're crazy busy, they're so busy that they can't even, and this is, I think part of the whoop and wharf of life in the big city. People are hopefully busy. I looked at it and said, I hope you're busy. It's better busy than not. But he's trying to say that maybe we're working too hard and we're not allowing leisure and the time to reflect and the time to generate new ideas. I mean, there is sort of a real economic argument underneath here that ideas and strategies and comes from a certain sense of rest and stepping away from it. What do you think?
You know, there's an old saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy person. Well, America is a busy country, and yeah, we do stay pretty busy. I mean, compared to other countries.
You just came back from Italy, right?
That's right.
Siesta, 1 to 4.
Every day.
We were joking.
I took a nap.
I was there for my honeymoon,
Yeah.
and I was at in a plaza, screaming to no one in the middle of the afternoon that the entire country needed a paint job, and they should all get to work. So we're a country. Look, we were founded by Puritans,
Yeah.
and there's a certain work ethic here, and I think people take pride in the fact that they have a lot to do.
We do, but even so, you look at the latest jobs data, which I did, and I look through the data every month, and what's the average work week for an fully employed person? 41 hours, 45 hours? No, it's 34 and a half hours. That's about 7 hours a day.
Right.
That doesn't sound like too busy, at least at work. Now, if you're busy in the rest of your life, that's kind of your own problem. You can manage your life to be less busy if you want, but then you have to pay the consequences with boredom.
Scott, do you think people are working long hours here? I mean, there are arguments to be made that they're working long hours because with the economy as fragile as it is and the unemployment situation being what it is, everyone wants to make a good impression at their job. And no one wants to be seen as they're slacking off, and no one wants to take a vacation because they don't want to go missing, because just by going missing, doesn't matter for what reason, someone is there and they might do a terrific job and the paradigm shifts in your job employment universe. Or is this something that they are trying to deny, some emptiness that is in their lives if they stop moving for a second?
It's funny how he, in this whole piece, he spends one sentence, I think, talking about people who work for subsistence, work to survive. And then he quickly dismisses them, and he's really all talking about the arts and journalism, class of culture through the whole thing. And I think really he's kind of projecting his handful of experiences with his friends. And looking at the whole world that way. He's talking about an intern who works for an entertainment website, and how does that apply to somebody in Indiana or Iowa? And he operates on this sort of false choices that you're either this artist who's working a couple of hours a day, or you're just mobbed with all of this time. And we know that that's not true. And he doesn't really see...
Well, he alludes to this theory, Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer, that full unemployment is really the final evolution of a society. This society learns to handle itself so well through technological innovation, through social innovation. People don't have to work. And then they're free to dream. They are free to create. They're free to do whatever. And it is that idea that employment is bad. By definition. Yeah. What do you think?
That's a fundamentally un-American idea, I got to say. And Arthur C. Clarke was not an American. But Americans tend to like work. And surveys show that. We're starkly different than Europeans when it comes to our attitude about work. We like going to work, we like feeling like we're producing, and we work more hours. And we work more hours and we earn more. We earn almost 20% more on average and produce 20%
and
more.
Marriages do better when someone's working. I mean, there's nothing worse for a marriage than everyone being home, right?
That's right.
We have it's anecdotal, but it's also, I think there's a story, like people with long careers, they retire, they go home, and it all falls apart. Yeah. I don't want you here. And then he also alluded to his colleague who, of course, floated this notion, Scott, the idea, everyone should just be given one job and one paycheck determined by some benevolent force, and thus the rat race would end. No one would have to outachieve anyone else, and we'd of course be free to dream and to come up with fabulous ideas to lead us into a brave and noble future. What do you think?
Yeah, and no one has explored that idea at all ever, and considered that what that means as far as incentives, what that means as far as productivity, and what would happen to our economy and our future. You know, if we were to do that, who is going to be the person who spends the time to make things happen? Who is going to create the culture that allows Tim to work 4 hours a day? And still have consumers that are willing to look at his stuff.
It's so funny because he works his 4 hours, 4 hours a day as a writer, which is his right. He said he chose time over money as a value. That's great. All for it. No problem. And he wants to be a writer, and he wants to go off to places where he can go off the grid and concentrate on his writing. That's fabulous. But it was interesting that during his off time, he liked to go get drinks with his friends, go see movies in big movie houses with movies that have been made by a lot of people who work 18, 20 hours a day. It was interesting how reliant he was for his non-work time on other people and their work. Did you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it's ironic. I mean, he sees himself as being cocooned by a service economy. Apparently, it's going to be staffed by robots in the future. I got news for you, it won't be. It's going to be the same guy, you know, sitting behind a bar because maybe he didn't complete high school, or somebody, you know, pulling
or someone who enjoys that work.
Somebody who enjoys
it.
it. Yeah.
Well, we can't talk anymore about this. I'm too busy. I got things to do. For Terry and Scott, I'm Alan Barton. You've been watching Front Page.